there was something incredibly predictable about that NFC Championship game.
Okay.
And as much as it hurt to watch and as much as I was angry as a fan watching that game, um, taking some time and I'm thinking back about what led us to that point, right?
Yeah.
And I keep going back to last off season. None of this was a surprise. We knew that we had Armstead coming up with a big cap hit. We knew that we had Trent Williams coming up with a big cap hit. We knew that we had $27 million on the books with Jimmy Garoppolo. And the plan was, let's get some comp picks. Let's not spend a lot in free agency. Let's hold on to Garoppolo until the very end and then cut him and roll that cap money over to 2023 because Lance isn't going to be ready this year.
Anyway, and we tore our hair out about it at the time. We were like, what are you doing? Your window is now. Your window is now. What are you doing? Look at Philly.
Right.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Philly. Like there were like 10 teams that were aggressive last offseason that really went for it. And the Niners were like, ha, stupid.
Right. And then
they had to go after McCaffrey because they were like, oh wow, maybe we should have been more aggressive. Damn.
Yeah, no, but it's not just that they had to go after McCaffrey. It's that they re-signed Jimmy. They went after McCaffrey. They spent all that money and all that capital that they had for this offseason. And that was because Trey Lance went down. And they went, well, now we have a wasted season where we're not even developing the guy that we were bringing in to make this all work. And the only so people talk bad about the Trey Lance trade. They spent too much. He's not worth it. He's a bust, this and that. I'll tell you right now, the more I look at it, the more I'm convinced that the only good thing that they've done since 2019 that really admitted their own faults and said we have to change something was that Trey Lance trade.
That's true. Now, they may not have gotten the right guy. They may have gotten the right guy and botched it, but it was the one admission, hey, guys, we're not good enough. We got to do something. We got to do something drastic and different. It was the one thing, and then the locker room vetoed it. They're like, no, we don't need. This is not 40. Kyle, this is not 49ers football.
Looking back at that training camp, we said, okay, so what changed between training camp and week one where they said, okay, we're not going to run the 49ers offense with Trey Lance. We're going to do this zone read, run up the middle garbage that ended up getting Trey Lance hurt, running him 15 times a game. What changed? Right? So I saw a Jimmy Ward quote. Jimmy Ward said that when they were in training camp and one of the things that bothered him is that they would win the rep and then Trey Lance would complete a pass and they'd be like, man, that dude was sacked 2 times already. Right? Because they didn't think that counted.
Right.
They didn't think that counted because on the defensive side of the ball, they think mobile quarterbacks are cheating.
Yep.
Right? They think that that's not real.
Which is why they can't stop them.
Which is why they always lose to stop them in big moments because they don't respect it. And on the offensive side of the ball, they think that mobile quarterbacks are fake. They're not real. They're not. That's not how you run an offense. You need a computer back there. Right?
Yeah. You need a non-athlete. You need a complete non-athlete at quarterback. Meanwhile, look at all the other quarterbacks that make it deep in the playoffs. Athletes.
So what are they doing when they're training? They're going, oh, well, that doesn't count. It doesn't count because our defense should have got there. He was sacked. He was touched. He was blah, 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 blah. So why do we need to practice the scramble drill and make sure that we have the back end covered for a play like 4th and 3 when Jalen Hurts rolls to his left, breaks contain, and finds the guy on the sidelines? Never mind that he didn't make that catch.
Yeah.
That is thoroughly predictable.
Because it happens all the time to the Niners.
That's what happens to the Niners because they don't respect that. So Trey Lance probably would have done good things this year, allowed to run the 49ers offense.
Yeah, let me tell you something real. I'm cool with running Trey Lance sometimes, but the way they did it was so aggressive. First of all, he was averaging 4 yards a carry. The Niners have won an NFC championship game just handing off. He was drawing so much attention. They could have just won games handing off, but they pressed the issue of running him. And it almost seemed like I don't know why, but it almost seemed like Kyle Shanahan was like, I don't even know what it was, but it's like, what do you think's going to happen? You're running him that much. He's not giving you 5 yards a carry. I mean, Justin Fields gives you 7 yards a carry. I get it. Lance giving you 4. Let him hand off.
He didn't want it.
Let him be a decoy.
He didn't want to do it. When it came right down to it, even though we made the choice to do it, and he set everything up to do it, and he said, let's develop Lance right, and then let's give him a year, and let's not pay a bunch of money in free agency.
Yeah, let's develop him right. Yeah.
We're going to do it. Yeah. We're going to do all the right things, and they did all the right things, and then they got to go time, and they shit the bed. That's what they did. They got to go.
They don't understand. But by doing it the way they did, sitting him and saying we're going to develop him the right way, you created the expectation that he's going to be Patrick Mahomes when he's on the field. He's going to be freaking Aaron Rodgers when he gets out there. That was never going to happen. This guy still hasn't played.
The proof that they did it, that they didn't want to run him like that, is that Lance wasn't prepared to run like that. He wasn't good at it.
It's not. That's where they really messed up with Lance. He is not the athlete they thought he was. Justin Fields is the athlete they thought Trey Lance was. Lance is supposed to be someone you're developing as a quarterback, not a dual threat.
But even so, even with him not being as fast as they thought he was and this and that, if they were going to run him like that, if the plan was really to run him like that, he'd have been making the right read. He would have at least been handing off or keeping the ball when he was supposed to. He made the wrong. He
couldn't even do that.
The times that he did it, he was making the wrong reads. He wasn't handing off to the right guy.
He didn't do it in college.
That's not the offense he ran in college. They didn't even prep him to run that.
Let me just say something real quick, Josh. Let me say something real quick. I like Trey Lance, and I'm not writing him off, and I hope he works out. But in the future, teams drafting quarterbacks, I feel like you can avoid 98% of the busts if you just don't draft a guy who's had fewer than 900 throws in college. Now, you're going to miss on some. You'll miss on Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Cam Newton. The only exception is if you feel this guy with fewer than 900 throws is the best athlete in the league. If you think his rushing production alone can justify the pick, because sometimes you take a running back in round 1, fine. Other than that,
I would still draft Lamar Jackson even if he had even if he had 100 throws.
Fair. If you feel like this dude is a legit athlete and I can use it, I mean, he's going to be my leading rusher and he'll figure it out, fine. But that's not Trey's not the best athlete in the league.
He's a 4.6 guy. He's a 4.6 guy, and he's not going to get to the edge.
Justin Fields is the best athlete in the league.
So here's the thing: is now we have to think about what can we do to move forward because we blew our window. So we absolutely blew our window. We've got these big cap hits hitting us, and we have no way to pay for them, right? So, I mean, we could extend guys or
you can keep restructuring, extending. You keep doing that. You could do that.
Yeah, you're going to turn it into New Orleans. You can't turn it into New Orleans. So what you have to do if you're the 49ers is identify the things that you do well, the places that you develop well, right? Like linebacker, defensive line, right? Yeah. Running back. Right? And you've got to reinvest in developing those positions.
Offensive line. And give Chris Forrester something to work with. Look what he did with Aaron Banks. Give him some better players. Chris Forrester's a good coach.
And you have to move off of the expensive older guys that you have at those positions.
Yep.
So what really sucks is Armstead. You know what you have to do? You got to trade Bosa. You got to do it. You got to do it because you developed the defensive line too well. It's too expensive, and you can get too much capital back that you can redevelop those positions with.
Do you want to have the best pass rush or the best pass rusher?
Yes.
Do you want to have the best offensive line or the best offensive lineman? The Niners have the best offensive lineman in the league, the best pass rusher in the league, but their trenches are mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only going to happen. It's only going to get exacerbated as Nick gets more money.
Yeah, but it's your own damn fault because you blew your window. You don't have it anymore. You don't have the money to add. You don't have the picks to add. So what you got to do is you got to identify what you develop well and then put the resources into the things that you don't. So when you make those trades, you've got to get rid of either Greenlaw or Al-Shaair because those two players are premium players that will bring you a return and you can't pay for them anyway, right? You've got to bring in a quality corner, right? You can't have 2 decent corners. You've got to have 4 quality corners and 1 outstanding corner in this league. And the 49ers have never had that, right?
It's going to be what people don't understand is going to be really hard for the Niners to have a dominant offensive line or defensive line when they're paying their left tackle $30 million and their DN $35 million a year. It's going to be really hard to round out an entire unit.
Screw that. It's going to be really hard for any quarterback to succeed and push the ball downfield when you've got $40 million invested in gadget players.
That's what the Niners have.
Yeah,
they have a bunch of gadget players.
So if you're going to have $40 million invested in Deebo Samuel and McCaffrey, right? If that's what you're going to do, then you need a quarterback like Brock Purdy who's making $300,000 a year, and
that's what they're committed to. They're going to do that for And we'll see how far they go.
And that's fine, but we've already shown that formula is really dicey.
But to me, quarterback drafted in round 7 is cheap. A quarterback drafted in round 2 is cheap. You could get a guy who's much more gifted than Purdy in round 2 and still have a cheap like Jalen Hurts, for example. Yeah, right. He's cheap, but he's also physically gifted like a first round pick.
If you can get and I'm just spitballing here, but if you can get a second and a third for Trey Lance at this point and add a quarterback in the draft that's more towards what you want to do, because you're already tied into what you want to do, you might have to bite the bullet and do it. Because Trey Lance requires
all I'm saying is if I were Shane Steichen over in Indianapolis, I would make that trade. I would say give me Trey. I would do that.
Absolutely, because they
2 second and third.
Because they can do the development cycle on Trey Lance that will actually make him succeed. Right, but
Trey Lance for 3 firsts isn't great, but Trey Lance for a second and third is great. Josh, wrap it up. I got to take another call.
The fact is we blew it. We absolutely blew the window that they prepared for us for this season in order to be relevant, and it's the York's fault, and it's 49ers fans' fault for putting up with it. We needed to be on the window of Trey Lance and behind Trey Lance from the moment that they drafted him, and we weren't because we don't have the patience for that.
You know what the window was? You know what the window was in retrospect? It was the Bosa rookie contract. Ever since they got Bosa is one of the best players in the league, and he's on a rookie deal. So he's one of the best bargains in the league. Every single year they had him and he was healthy, they should have won the Super Bowl. But now he went from making $8 million a year, $10 million a year. It's going to be 17 next year, and then it's going to be 35 pretty soon. And then it's not the same. Now you're actually paying for that.
I'm going to leave you with one piece of hope. And that's what Kyle Shanahan does well. They brought in Wilkes to be the defensive coordinator. That was a brilliant move. You know what Shanahan does? He talks football at the highest level. So when he talks to other coaches around the league, when he talks to other coordinators on the league, not only do they respect him, but he identifies immediately who speaks on his level. You talk football at a high level, right? You know immediately when you have somebody on your show who you have to talk down to or who can play at your level. He identifies the people that play at the highest level in the coaching staff, and he can always bring in new guys to train and bring up the next echelon of players. So if they can identify what they're good at and keep bringing in good young players and don't fall in love with the Kittles and the Bosas of the world, but instead reallocate their resources to the things that are important, they could eventually figure this thing out. But it's going to be ugly for the next couple of years.
Thanks, Josh.